What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another new episode of How to Get Away with the JD. It's been a minute. I know I've been busy as hell. I think I did 3L year wrong. I was supposed to be a Frio. Somehow, many things kept popping up and popping up and popping up. So February and March, crazy. But we're near the end now. On this new episode, we have 3 episodes left before the end of the season. And I promised you guys we were going to do some elite shit, right? And what better way to be elite than Harvard? Like what's topping the top, right? So today I got a guest with me. We're going to talk a little bit about his journey to law school, to Harvard, like all of that stuff. But I'm going to let him introduce himself, and then we will get started.
Yes, sir. Hey, man. Well, thank you for having me, man. I'm super blessed and privileged to be speaking with you and your audience, man. It's super tight, dog. So my name is Andrew Gonzales. I'm from Richmond, California. It's a city in the Bay Area, like 15 minutes maybe outside of Oakland, Berkeley. I grew up out here K through 12. I went to college in Rhode Island at Brown, graduated in 2016, then came back to Richmond. Yes, sir. Came back to Richmond, was a teacher for 2 years. I taught middle school English back in my hometown. So I taught my younger sister, nephew, family, friends, the whole gang. So I did that for a couple of years, loved that, but then went off to law school. So I started law school at Harvard in 2018, and I'm a 3L now. So just getting ready like you, man, to graduate.
Because it's time. It is time.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I don't know who told us to like leave big boy jobs and go back to school and suffer. Like, I don't it is what it is, right? So I'm just going to dive right in with the first question, and then we're going to circle back to everything else. Harvard, like how did that happen? And then 2, talk a little bit about the mental state, like the process for you to apply, and then like what that waiting period was, because that's the #1 school. Like, that's where everyone wants to be at.
Yeah, man, it's a trip. So I actually, so I told you I went to college on the East Coast, and I'm from the West Coast. Mm-hmm. And the snow hit me crazy when I first went out there. I didn't have a winter coat, none of that. I love the people that I went to college with, but like, dang, I said, this winter is not for me, it's for the birds. And so when I came back home after teaching, I threw away my winter coat. I said, I'm never going back to the East Coast. I'm done with it. When I applied to law school, like I applied to Harvard because it was like, okay, I'm going to apply to Harvard, but I really don't want to go here. I really want to go to school on the West Coast. And I was telling everybody that. So when I decided to go to Harvard, you know, friends, family was like, bro, like what happened? But basically what happened, man, was I applied all over the place, got into the places I got into, and then visited. And surprisingly, Harvard's Black Law Students Association was just like really prominent. It was large. It was really active. They were the best at like being in touch with me, connecting me to resources and people that I was interested in, making me feel like I was at home. And so the diversity at HLS and more specifically the Black students and Black faculty at the time when I was making my decision were just like really impactful. And that's ultimately how I got there, or how I ended up deciding to go there.
Okay, that I'm not gonna fake it. That kind of blows my mind a little bit, because, you know, I think for me, at least when I was applying to schools, I'm thinking like Ivy Leagues, probably not that much representation. Mind you, I go to a school with not that much representation, so the irony there. But yeah, no, that's interesting. So let's talk about that, right? So as a Black student at the #1 most coveted law school, we're gonna talk about why you didn't want to go, but the most #1 coveted law school, like what has your experience been from 1L year walking in as, you know, like deer in headlights, like what the hell is going on, all the way up to now?
Yeah, man. So like I said, my decision the way I made my decision was on the axes of like Black people. Like growing up in Richmond, it's a predominantly Black and brown city. Most of my friends are Black and brown people, just from, you know, poor to working class background. So going to an Ivy League school for undergrad, Brown was a shocker, but would allow me to still do well there because I just found a community of similar people, Black people who just made the difference for me. And so I knew that for law school, that was going to be just going to be instrumental. It was going to be absolutely necessary. So that's what I found, and that's kind of been my bread and butter, sticking with the Black community from the time I walked through the door to my time now about exiting. I had a really great friend, Malika Williams. She was the same class year with me at Brown, and we were best friends there. And she went to Harvard the year before me, and so when I walked through the door, she held my hand. Through classes, through professors, through student practice organizations, clinics, all of the things. And she was really supportive. I ended up stumbling upon a really great Black professor, my 1L year, Professor Nicholas Bowie. He gave me a lot of advice on, similar types of things, but from a professional perspective. And so that was really great. And then again, our BOSA was just, man, it was really great. My class of 21, just some really great caliber people, my roommate, my friends, section mates, etc. We're still underrepresented at the school. I don't know the exact number. It's probably about anywhere from 8 to 11% of us or so. So there could be more, but in terms of sheer numbers, I just found a solid group of people, and those people have continued to stand by my side. And so I really enjoyed my experience. There are definitely some ups and downs, especially in that first year, transitioning into law school. People come from different backgrounds, people have different goals, etc. But again, like I said, I really stuck to the bread and butter. Where my skin and kinfolk at. That kind of they held me down. So that made the difference.
No, that's actually hella real. I too, I found my folks. There's not a lot of us here, but I found my folks, and I said, "Yo, it's good."
Exactly.
So I definitely feel it. But to speak to like some of those difficulties, because I mean, like everyone hears, especially for students who've like never had families, families with attorneys, you're a first generation law student, all these things, you hear that law school is hard. Yep. And you go to the premier law school. So talk a little bit about what were some of those struggles that you faced in your 1L year, because it's just a different ballgame.
Yeah, man, that's real. I mean, the thing, like you said, is it's not many of us. And so that's an inherent and instant challenge. Like, my actual first day of law school, my first class was with a Black professor, Guy Charles. He was visiting from Duke. But I think they just brought him on the faculty. He's an amazing dude, like really smart, really caring. He's been like one of my greatest mentors in law school. And so even still walking in on the first day with a Black professor who I thought was like the man, 50 grand, the rest of the class wasn't, you know what I mean? And law school in a lot of ways is performative. You walk through and you had all of this reading the night before and all of these cases, and you think you're coming in like everybody else. Like nobody knows these cases. Nobody knows what a cold call is. We're about to get into this. Everybody's about to have their first shot. And a lot of people are like, no, I'm not new to this, playboy. Like this might be my first year, but my dad's the dean of this law school, or my dad's a partner at this law firm. And so I'm familiar already with reading and analyzing cases. I'm familiar with the cold calls. I'm familiar with volunteering to challenge the professor on their perspective. I'm familiar with, the cadence of how the law. And so that was the most challenging thing, is walking in, and a lot of my peers didn't look like me. And not only do they not look like me, they didn't come from a similar background. They had a lot more experience. So, I was reading the case and thinking like, dang, I'm barely understanding the facts. Like what's going on here, And they already, facts, been there, done that, holding rule, been there, done that. I'm on to, analyzing the latest law review article in the context of this case's development. So that was a challenge. And the how it manifested, though, was just in terms of confidence to speak up, confidence to take up space, the confidence to make a mistake in the space, like raise my hand and say, look, professor, this is what I think, and be totally wrong, but still say like, this is what I think. And so that was really a challenge. And it really took me some time to to get to that place where I was willing to speak up, where I was willing to be wrong, where I was willing to go to the professor and ask questions, where I was willing to say, you know what, student X, you said X and you said Y, and I don't think neither one of them things are true, you know, and to just feel confident in that. And ultimately it came, but it was definitely a struggle and a difficulty to start out with.
No, that's actually hella real, especially them colleagues that be like, oh, facts, that's easy. What? Like all that other stuff. You just sitting here like, did I miss like a
right. No, I think I missed that part.
like, excuse me? Like all. So no, I definitely feel that. I think that is like an inherent struggle for anybody going to law school, especially when you don't know, right? But you said something earlier that I want to dig into because I know I have a lot of listeners from different backgrounds, right? So where you're from, even barring like how you were raised, up until going to an Ivy League for undergrad, coming back to teach, and then going to an Ivy League for law school. Let's talk about like that burden a little bit. Have you ever felt that some of what you've done in your journey is not just for you, it's for your community, for your family, different things like that? Let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, man, definitely. I mean, I think that, you know, for me, first and foremost, my faith is the most important thing. And then my family right after that. And so everything I do, I really strive to do it in honor and reverence to God and Christ. And then, you know, for my family and for my community. And so I definitely felt that way. I mean, you know, one of the things I always think about is, you know, in a lot of ways, like you, me, we're exceptions to the rule. You know, it's not every day that you have young Black men in law school and having that opportunity. It's not because young Black men or young Black people aren't capable. It's just that the system is set up in such a way where it makes that, you know, punitively difficult. And so because of that, though, the system, in order to legitimize itself as fair, has to have exceptions to the rule. You got to have the Obama every once in a while to say, you know, we're post-racial, we're not racist. We got President Barack Obama. You know, Richmond's not that bad. If you just study hard, you can end up like Andrew Gonzales. And I realize in a lot of ways, you know, my existence and success and navigation through these things is in many ways upholding the very systems that I hope to confront, you know, because the system needs me to be successful so that it can point and say, well, you know, if you really just work hard, pull yourself up by those bootstraps, and you can reach that place too. And I know that in me, you know, doing the things that I've done, there's 1,000, 1,000,000 other people who were just as talented, more talented, just as smart, more smart, who could have and should have been able to do this, but you know, weren't able to because of systemic barriers. And so I feel a huge burden and responsibility for those people. I try, you know, to be as successful as I can be in law school and beyond, recognizing I'm representing where I come from, who I am, the kingdom of God, like all the things, like I carry that as an important badge, and it is something that's definitely humbling. You know, when I decided to go to Harvard, and posted about it on social media, like, you know, family, friends, people from the community, the hood, like everybody showed just incredible love. You know what I mean? And it's just that same love that people show me as I'm accomplishing the things that I strive to accomplish is, you know, the same love I hope to return through doing everything I can to just be an instrumental portion of the community, to encourage somebody, to support somebody, be there for somebody else. So I definitely feel that burden on me, but it's a blessing.
No, I'm actually glad you brought up a lot of what you just did, because I mean, this is actually the second conversation this season that I've had with another Black man, but it's the first conversation where religion and family and like these different ties are brought up to it, right? I think being a Black law student, something that a lot of people forget or overlook purposely is that there are many things that make up our identity, right? And so when we sit in the classroom, we're not just sitting in the classroom for ourselves. We're sitting in the classroom for the Black boy or the Black girl who before us who couldn't get there, or the ones who are like looking at us now like, oh, I want to be like Andrew. Oh, I want to be like Kaylin. Oh, I want to be like so-and-so when I grow up. And it can be tasking at times. I can't even fake. Like this year alone, something I've realized, I've spent more time outside of the classroom talking to people who want to go to law school and listening to some of their stories. And you're just like, damn, wow, that's crazy. Like there's so much in terms of identity that a lot of people will overlook when it comes to this journey and this process, whether it's making it or not making it and what that looks like long term. And so I really do appreciate that perspective, because it is like you're sitting in the classroom, you got the hood on your back, period. I don't care what anybody says. And like as you accomplish these things, yeah, you accomplish them in your name, but everyone else is like, that, you know, that's my boy. Like this, like that pride is something that I think is very inherent in the journey. And I think it's something that kind of helps motivate us to keep going. Cause like, obviously here we are now, months away from graduation, whatever that looks like in other people's states and whatnot. But I do think that's very interesting perspective for sure.
Yeah, man, definitely. And even, you know, to take it even just one step further, just the actual material too that you're wrestling with has implications in a lot of ways, you know, for the same people that are cheering you on and rooting you on. And so, you know, that even places additional, not just burden, but, you know, incentive during the course of law school to really make sure I get it, to ask the question, because you don't ask that question, nobody else is going to ask that question. If you don't consider that perspective, nobody else is going to consider that perspective. You don't bring in, you know, where you're from and how this rule that seems very objective is actually not, and in many ways has so many disproportionate impacts. Like nobody else is going to consider that. So it definitely, you know, the encouragement and support of family and friends is one thing. And then also just thinking about how those rules affect people. And then the other thing is, you know, in a lot of ways, lawyers or people who go to law school end up being in positions of power, you know, later on. And so it's also incumbent to make your classmates just aware in whatever way you can of realities that are beyond their own. So yeah, man, I definitely understand and hear what you're saying. And yeah, you're totally spot on.
No, hard fact. Crim and Crim Pro, con law and property, probably the most problematic classes you'll take in law school, period.
Oh, hands down.
100%.
Hands down. I mean, they're sick, man. That property is something else. And it really depends on the professor you get to, because like sometimes your professor will try and act like it's just black and white and it just is what it is. And you're like, wait a minute, what you just said, that means that people in this neighborhood and in this neighborhood, they're gonna end up with, you know, whatever. So yeah, man, yeah, Crim Pro, property, like, to be honest, all of it it's out of hand. But those especially.
Yeah, everything, like even your classmates, some of the discussions, like I vividly remember I'm sitting there like, did you just say bet?
Exactly.
But I mean, all are valid points, but I want to take it back a little bit. So you took time off before coming back. I took time off before coming back. I've had episodes about this in the past, but I always like to get the perspective. When you graduated from undergrad and then going into that what's next process, did you know that you eventually wanted to go to law school, or was law school a distant thought at the time?
No, when I graduated, I was, or as a senior, I was pretty confident I wanted to go. Mm-hmm. There were a few complicating factors. So one, I really missed home and I wanted to be back with my family. I had a nephew and a younger sister who were in that adolescent age. I thought it was just really important to have somebody around. And I also missed going to their games, volleyball, baseball, basketball, all this stuff. So I just wanted to go back home. And then two, you know, like I was really invested in all the things going on in my undergrad. And I actually just wasn't able to prepare my law school applications the way I wanted to. So I was pretty confident I wanted to do it, but I missed home, wanted to do something with, you know, people back home, and then also needed a little time to get myself and my stuff together. So it was a combination of those things, but more or less knew what time it was.
Okay. Yeah. So let's talk about the teaching. I think personally, as somebody who did something completely unrelated to the law, that in your time off, no matter what you do, everything is a transferable skill, right? For you, teaching, shit, that's what we do, and that's what we will do in like everyday life after we graduate. That experience as a teacher for those 2 years, how do you think, looking back at it, it shaped you to be prepared to go into law school?
Yeah, man. I mean, the biggest thing is teaching, you're interacting with students every day, and they're just people. They're younger people, but they're people nonetheless. And some things change about people as time goes on, and some things don't. And so being able to interact and reach, I had 200 students in a year. Be able to reach to all 200, or to the best of my ability, the 200 that I had. It just takes that people skill. It takes that attention to what concerns that one person. It takes what motivates this person. It takes, what is this person really caring about, and what's at stake for this person. And I think just understanding that was really important for helping me navigate, even just relationships with my own classmates, building relationships with professors. I also understood a little bit more, like, from a teacher's perspective, what is it that you really want to see from students? And so that helped me interact with professors a little bit more. And so it wasn't so much content knowledge. I mean, there were some things I am interested in a little bit related to education law. So, things related to special education, and students right in those contexts, or funding, school funding, and things of that nature. Like, I was privy to in a little bit before, but it was more so just like the soft skills, if anything, just interacting and with other people, and just seeing, multiplicity of perspectives.
That is hella real,
Yeah.
hella deep, but hella real. Many layers that I'm gonna just leave. I'm gonna let the people figure out what they need to take away from
Yeah,
it.
sometimes you gotta leave it up to the people, man.
Right. I'll leave that open to interpretation. They got their own essays to worry about.
Right.
In that 2 years, I know something that I struggled with was the motivation to come back, first of all, because dear God, why? But then
Right.
two, it was actually getting prepared for the LSAT, getting my application and everything together. I didn't have anybody to help me, right? So it was just like, I'm doing all this on my own while working this full-time job because I need the bag to then come back. What was that in terms of the application process for you? How did that look in terms of help, no help, studying, all that?
Yeah, man. I mean, the thing I didn't even think about when I decided to teach was that teachers get summer break. So that that was clutch. I mean, I had a full-time job and full salary for those 2 years, but then after my first year, I had the whole summer, from May through the end of August, and during those months, I just bunkered down. I started studying for the LSAT probably in the spring of my first year teaching, and then took it early fall. So probably started studying sometime, like, just casually in like March, Aprilish, and then ended up pulling up to take it in September. Um, and then really use the summer months to study, and use those same summer months to write my essays and all of the things. Like I said, I had one good friend who went to law school the year ahead of me. She was a major resource, and a couple of other friends who didn't necessarily go to law school, but I just trusted them because they knew me, they knew my story, to read my stuff and to give me advice. My recommenders from undergrad were all really great. And so that was one thing that one group that I use as a resource too. Like, when I asked them for letters of rec, asked just to talk to them about law school, what they knew. Though none of them were lawyers, they taught people who went to law school. They're generally in more ivory tower circles, and so they have more exposure to the field than me. So leaned on those professors. And so, yeah, that was kind of my process. Those are the people who like really helped out and stuff like that. And so had a little bit of help, and definitely grateful for that.
Love it. Moral of the story, everybody. Your network, definitely your net worth. So if you know anybody in law school, like I had a few friends who I stole like study books from, since giving all my study books away for the LSAT. So all that stuff, like, make sure y'all use and tap into your resources. There's a lot of free stuff out there, and there's a lot of people who are willing to help you. And I really think that goes a long way in this journey, especially when there's only 5% of us in practice. So it is what it is. But guys, we are going to take a quick break because I got bills to pay. This ain't cheap. And then we're gonna come right back and talk a little bit more about Andrew's experience at Harvard and what he plans on doing after he graduates. So sit tight. All right, guys, and we are back. We were having a nice little conversation off screen. Y'all can't see that. It's between us. But just to dive right back in with Andrew, we've been talking about his experience at Harvard, leading up to how that worked, because, prestige is prestige. So, Andrew, as a student in your 3 years, what has that Harvard experience looked like? Like, what have you done in terms of extracurriculars, been involved with, all that other stuff? How have you juggled that?
Yeah, man. So I really wanted to just have a good time and, learn a lot at the same time. So first and foremost, I did a lot of intramural sports. I played flag football. We had flag football and basketball. And, we won in both. My teams won in flag football. We won in basketball. Humble brag, slight flex, Harvard Law School intramural championships. I mean, that's right below high major D1. So did that, man, and had a blast, man. To be honest, those are probably some of my fondest memories. Winning those championships, winning those games, and actually met a lot of cool people in the process. Professors, other students, other friends. So I really did the intramural thing through and through. So first and foremost, I also joined. We have at Harvard student practice organizations and clinics. The student practice orgs are very similar to clinics. There's just minor differences, and you can join as a 1L as opposed to only being able to join as a 2L, 3L. So I joined a student practice org that was called Harvard Defenders. We represent indigent clients in show cause hearings, which are probable cause hearings. So prior to the stage of arraignment, usually for things like minor drug possession or, shoplifting, things of this nature that didn't initially trigger an arrest, but nonetheless started in the criminal process. We represented those folks in those probable cause hearings. So I did that as a 1L and continued that through 3L. I was involved in BOLSA. So I was academic affairs co-chair. Yes, sir. Yep. So that was amazing and tremendous work. I was involved in an organization called Advocates for Education. So keeping that teaching and education bend. I was co-president of that organization, and, we did a lot of things at the intersections of law and education and student rights and advocacy. So I did that. I did the BOLSA mock trial team. We actually won the national championship a couple of weeks ago with the BOLSA mock trial team. So did that. Slight flex. I was a low key player on the team. The other 3 people on the team, they were the big baller shot callers. I was just there to hit a wide open jumper every once in a while. They took everything else through and through. So I did that, and then probably my largest commitment was something called the Harvard Legal Aid Bureau, which is a student-run legal service organization. It's the second largest provider of legal services, I believe, in the Boston area. And, we represent people in all types of civil matters. I did housing law. And so I represented, indigent tenants in eviction proceedings. So did a lot of that work over the past 2 years, and loved every bit of that, So that was probably my most robust and substantive involvement was the Harvard Legal Aid Bureau. Really great leadership, really great people there. So yeah, man, learned a lot, did a lot, had a great time.
I would argue, yeah, you've done things in 3 years.
Yeah.
I now pale in comparison. So, I'm just.
No, not at all.
It's cool. It's fine. It's cool. But I do find it interesting. As a 1L, you got to do these really cool big things. Yeah. So, like us, you have to wait until your 2 year because all we have is clinics. So then you have to get, for us, it's called Rule 13 certification to actually represent clients.
Yeah.
How did that work as a 1L? Did you have to receive certification, or was it you're doing all the research work and all that, and then there's an attorney who does everything else? How does that work? I'm curious.
Yeah, man. So student practice organizations are different from clinics in some type of way. I don't exactly remember the like technical, meaningful difference. I think so. Clinics you get like class credit for, as if you were taking like, tax or something, you get the same type of credit. Right, that class, yeah. But I didn't take tax. Student practice orgs, you don't. It counts towards your pro bono hours, so you don't get class credit. And you're able to do as a 1L. There is a licensed attorney who is like the head of the clinic in some ways, whose bar license we practice under. But in terms of the representation process, it's all on the student. So we had a team model. So it was usually a 2L partnered with a 1L or a 3L partnered with a 1L. And the 1L was often the second seat, although you can first seat the case. And yeah, you go to the hearings on your own, just the students. You represent the clients, full-fledged. It's a large learning curve. A lot of practice, a lot of mock hearings, a lot of watching and learning. My first year, I mainly did second seatings. I ended up doing a first seating at the end of my first year, but that was at the end. Most of the time I was second seating. So yeah, man, it was just a great chance to get your hands dirty immediately. And, the law sometimes in law school can be devoid of, real world consequences and people. And so it's a good way to blend, meeting the needs of real people, learning the community I was already in with the classes I was taking.
I agree. I mean, at this point, if you don't already have it, I think you should have order of the barristers before you walk across that stage. I think advocacy is just like all over what we're doing here. So I like that. I like it. I don't like the fact that you all are national mock trial champions. Okay, we didn't have a BOSA team this year, but I am going to see some of your classmates in 2 weeks at the American Justice Society, whatever, mock trial comp. So, we'll see how that goes. I'll see what I can do.
Yeah, do your thing, man. There was our team captain for the BOSA mock trial team is also captain for just like the larger HLS mock trial team. And she's tough, man. So you get her in around, Joy Holden, you get her in around, you gotta come prepared. I wasn't prepared and I was on her team. So let me tell you, she's serious. Also a great person I played intramural basketball with. She's not bad. Off the wing and in the post, she's nice. So she's two-way player.
Moral of the story is, I'm hearing she's a threat that I got to keep my eyes out for.
Triple threat. Joy Holden, triple threat.
No, that's hella real. But it does sound like Harvard not only kept you busy, but it gave you more of a real experience. And I tell people this all the time, like, experience is that what matters. Like, law school is stressful as shit. There have been many times where I'm just like, why am I doing this? Why am I here? But having like that outside release, right? So like, after doing journal, after doing BOSA, after doing all these other things, what else is there for you to do and connect with? So definitely appreciate that you bounced around quite a bit.
Yeah, man. And I think like, it was, I didn't have the foresight to know this before, but Black people really make the difference. And this is how, because in all of the organizations that I did, like many of them were tryouts or, application based. And so it wasn't a guarantee that you would get them. But, at the time when I was a 1L, we had, a Black man who was the president of the Harvard Law Review. We had a Black woman who was the president of the BOSA, a Black woman who was the president of the Harvard Legal Aid Bureau, a Black woman who was the president of Harvard Defenders. Like all, Black people were in that thing through and through. And so when it was time to interview and all the things, the process was still filled with integrity and fairness, but I had already been talking to them the whole year about just what it was like to be a Black student in these spaces. And so having Black people, Black people just end up being your biggest plug, or end up being my biggest plug for all of these opportunities. And so I'm definitely grateful, specifically just a ton of the Black women leadership on campus. So, if you can find a place with some Black women doing some really amazing things at that law school, like, man, that's a good sign that you want to be in that place.
Let's be very clear. The Black women do hold it down.
Holding it down. Yes, sir.
Hold it
down.
100%.
100%.
So what's next, Andrew? It has been 3 long years. We got smacked in the face with the pandemic at the tail end of our second, and we are riding this bad boy out. What is next after graduation? Where is Andrew going? What does Andrew want to do?
Yeah, man. The first question, where am I going, is a little easier. The second question, what I want to do, is a little harder. But I'm going to go to a firm. I'm from the Bay Area, so I'm going to go to a firm that's in San Francisco. It's a DC-based firm, but they got an office in San Francisco. So I'm going to go there for a year and just probably do general litigation stuff, and hopefully try and learn a lot. It's a great firm, a lot of great people, so I'm excited about that. And then I'm going to clerk for 2 years after that. I'm going to clerk for a judge. Her name's Judge Pamela Harris. She sits on the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals in Bethesda, Maryland. And then a judge, he's Black actually, Judge Haywood Gilliam, who sits on the Northern District of California in Oakland. And I'm really, really excited about that. They're really great people, great judges. I really love their opinions. I love the way they run their chambers. I hope to learn a lot. So the second question of what do I want to, what do I ultimately want to do? I'm hoping to learn during my time at the firm and in the clerkships, because I hope to have, some really great mentorship to help, guide me and shape out some of the rough patches. So that's what I got going on for the next couple of years. And, ultimately, like we talked about earlier, just wanting to be a representative and an ambassador for the community. That still remains to be, forefront of all of my goals and ambitions. So figuring out ways to do that, hopefully I'll be able to have something that has some type of legal significance, social significance, and importance. And yeah, we'll see.
Okay, so I got to ask, because I think you're actually the first person who's done this. What made you choose clerking?
Yeah, so clerking, I just heard, was a really great opportunity. I hear a lot of people who do firm work, or even just first year law, you're a first year attorney, or young attorney. Sometimes you have to do some grunt work. So they said it's a good way to bypass some of that and get some like really cool experiences. Heard people who've done it say it's the best job that they've ever had. And, I've talked to some really cool people and some people I really trusted. And then secondly, or thirdly, I think at this point, just the mentorship as a person who's, a first gen lawyer, not having a ton of people in my life who've traveled the journey I want to travel, getting mentorship from people who've gone some places I want to go, or been some places I want to be, seemed invaluable. And so both of the judges that I'm clerking for, are really big on mentorship. And so I really, really wanted that opportunity. So yeah, man, it just seemed like a good opportunity to get some skills, get some mentorship, learn some new stuff, and hopefully have a good time doing it. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
I'm not mad at that. That is, you're definitely the first person I've met that has gone on to clerk. So that's going to be fun. I'm excited for you.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Super excited. But once you become a Supreme Court justice one day, just don't forget me.
I don't know about that one, man.
I'm here, right? But as we come to the end of the podcast, I have to thank Andrew again for taking the time to hang out with me. 3 years can be a lot going on, but taking the time out to actually sit and have the conversation to enlighten the listeners, right? In terms of a different perspective of the journey. As we come to the close, I always ask this question. I might have slipped on a couple episodes, but I always ask this question for the most part of my guests. So first question, what advice would you give to a pre-law student looking to go to law school? And then what would be your advice to a current law student?
Yeah, those are the $1 million questions. For the pre-law student, I think you said it, man. Like, utilize your network. And if you don't have a network, build one. Especially for people who are underrepresented in the legal field. Those of us who are already in the field are really aware of that fact, and then really do want to give back. So, reach out to a guy like you, reach out to a guy like me, reach out to somebody, that can give you some advice. If it's just to read an essay, if it's just to ask the question, reach out to somebody. Don't do it alone. It's 10 times more challenging when you do it alone. People have blazed this trail before, so reach out to those folks. We got to pull as we climb. So definitely, yeah, stay tapped in. That's the biggest piece of advice I got there. For the people who are already in law school, I would say, law school can seem like it's this different beast, and in a lot of ways it is, but it's just another life challenge. And so the same things that you've always done to get you through challenges, like stick to those guns. If you are a person of faith, like don't lose faith in law school, increase your faith. If you're a person who loves sports, like don't stop watching or playing sports because you're in law school, like do that. If you're a person who just, I got to go to a movie every Tuesday night, like still do your movie night on Tuesday and say, you know what, I might not get there, but I'm gonna go and do my movie, so stick to your guns. My grandfather, my late grandfather, he's from Laurel, Mississippi, and he used to tell me this: when you dance with the girl who brought you to the prom. So whoever it is that's brought you to the prom, what's ever gotten you to this place, you dance with that one, man. You dance with them and don't leave them just because you're in law school. So that's probably my advice for the people who are in law school.
Oh my God. Are we related?
Hey, it might be, man. Might be.
We're going to have to talk about this offline to figure this out. But again, I want to thank Andrew for coming through. It has been a blast to have this conversation. It feels great to have the space in order to open up the platform for people to hear this convo. So thank you, man, so much for coming out. As for my listeners, guys, after this, 2 more episodes until the end of season 2 of How to Get Away with the JD. I appreciate the love and support that you guys have shown this season. It's actually been kind of crazy, especially since the Instagram page went up. A lot of DMs have been coming in about some of the stuff you guys would like to see, some help. So with that said, in the summer, after I study for the bar, there will be an opportunity for you guys to start sending in some of your personal statements, your resumes and things, and I will be taking time to actually review and edit those. I just wanted to give you guys the shameless plug now. Follow the Instagram page so you know when it's coming, at How to Get Away with the JD. The acronyms for that, I'm not going to spell out, but y'all can spell so y'all can figure it out, right? But again, it's been fun. It's been a blast. I can't wait for you guys to hear the last 2 episodes of the season, but it had to start off with some elite stuff because I've been gone for so long, right? But peace, love, happiness. I wish y'all the best. And until next time, yeah.